Hello to the future. Gabriel Saint here, writer, director, artist, working out of Los Angeles, California. And today, we're drawing a picture of Nosferatu in Photoshop. I have not seen the film yet. I'm excited to go see it this weekend, but we're just gonna guess. Alright, let's get everything set up here. An idea of where our picture might be. So I think the top of his head here. Okay, so we're gonna just rough in his head about here. You know, I think he'll have, these will be like his hands kind of situation here. Something like that, maybe. You know, I'm just kind of roughing in, not judging too much, just kind of getting a basic balance for what's gonna be on the canvas in the end. And that's it. I'm not trying to judge anything. These are the sleeves, face, his hands out front, kind of reaching out, just kind of basic Nosferatu composition that we've seen. And again, I'm not judging the picture too much right now. I'm just kind of enjoying the process. Not sure what's gonna stay or what'll go. Kind of want to use the least amount of strokes possible, trying to be economical here. So we're just filling in his cape here. Good, and I'm just kind of roughing in some areas here to get us started. Not 100% sure on where the drawing is going. I have an idea. I have a couple references in mind that I was looking up. Some pictures of the original Nosferatu. Some picture of Bill Skarsgård. And then I'm going to try to kind of like data mosh them together here in Photoshop. Let's see what we end up with. So I'm still just kind of roughing in an area here. I can kind of see the picture starting. You know, I can see his head and his hands, and we've got shoulders and a background here. I'm starting to see some fingers and a thumb here. You know, not really committed to anything, but just kind of narrowing down some of the lines that I made earlier. You know, we know, like, if we're going with this, you know, his cheeks here, maybe above his eyes. On the forehead here, we know he's gonna have some kind of pointy ears, nose. I think we'll have some kind of mouth here. It's kind of slung low. You know, again, we're just kind of roughing some of these things in. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and lose our underdrawing, but also, you know, the underdrawing's meant to disappear over time, but it does make me nervous when it does. Okay, so now I'm just kind of pushing the lights in the dark. So, you know, if you've watched anything I've done, you know I just want to do lighter lights and darker darks. We just want to focus on where the contrast is, because wherever we leave contrast is wherever your attention will go. So I'm just kind of like still kind of darkening what I know is just going to be solid black for now, to just kind of get some of it out of the way. Just kind of buying us some room here. We'll get in here and black out some of these details better, but just kind of roughing some of that in. Bring my brush size down a little bit, kind of round off his chin. You know, I'm still kind of thinking about how he looks, how Bill Skarsgård looks in It, you know, and how Nosferatu looks in the original film, and also taking into account maybe a little bit of Robert Eggers aesthetic here. Kind of figure out what we're doing. And again, I'm just winging it. I'm not really sure what he's gonna look like in this movie. They actually made a decision not to release an image of Skarsgård, which is not convenient for me, because I would like to draw the picture of Skarsgård. There is another picture of the cover with a silhouette of him and the other actor, Lily Rose Depp. Maybe I'll draw on another stream. But so what we're doing here is we're just gonna make it up, because that's all we got. You know, Skarsgård is a very he's got a specific face. His eyes are kind of set wide, you know, so we want to kind of make sure his eyes kind of sit in a certain way. And the original Nosferatu had such a long kind of pointy nose, but Skarsgård has kind of a like his nose is like just the opposite of that. He doesn't really have a pointy nose like Nosferatu. He has more of a button nose. So I'm interested to see how our Nosferatu is going to turn out with the bit of a button nose instead of like a pointy nose. But you know, Robert Eggers knows what he's doing, and man, Skarsgård has done a really great job in the past doing it, and that whole family. Whole family is a bunch of very talented gentlemen. I'm just kind of bringing out some kind of definition here in his head, just kind of finding a gradient between. We're just defining the face a little bit at a time. Oh, you know what would be fun is if we had a little, was it rats or? I don't even think they had bats, and he was rats in the original one, but that's okay. It's gonna be a bat in this drawing. Just adding a little bit of something in the background here, so we're not just looking at that regular gray background. Let's lighten it up around our bat friend back here, so it's just not a stark gray background. Add some more darkness back here. I'm using the Pastelapalooza brush. I'm just kind of getting used to this brush, but it looks pretty good to me, and also it has a nice texture. It really does start to kind of look like an actual, like a real world texture, like a piece of pastel or a paintbrush or something. I'm really surprised at how great that looks. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going in and I'm just kind of guessing at where some highlights might be in his forehead, now in his ears. We want to light him from the bottom. You always want to light a bad guy from below, like campfire style. Maybe that's why we think that looks scary, is because for thousands of years we've seen people tell scary stories around campfires. So maybe there's a little bit of that in the way we see things. When we have a character or something that's lit from the bottom, it really does kind of add to the scariness. Whoops, sorry, my computer was kind of I think he's probably going to have some sharp teeth here. The original fella had just like 2 rat teeth in the front, but I think that probably end up with something a little more elegant than that in this Robert Eggers film, but we still want him to be scary, so we got some sharp looking teeth started there, and it's not too bad. It's not too bad. We got a good start here, and let's take a look at what's going on here with this hand here. I think we would see more of this palm here. And all these pictures, when I think of Count Orlok, I always think of him and those hands and those sharp nails and those eyes. So I'm kind of just trying to focus on that part of the drawing so we know who he is. So the name of the game from here is just darker darks and lighter lights. And I'm not trying to for the first time, I'm going to start bringing my brush down. I started to, you want to kind of start with a big brush and not get too caught up on the details. But at some point, I'm going to have to bring my brush down and really start focusing on some details right here. So, I'm jumping between black and white and gray, and luckily with a computer I have an undo, but I'm just kind of throwing caution to the wind and just jumping in on some of these details, see how it pans out. Not really exactly sure what the right answers are here, but we're just going to feel it out and just kind of see where it goes. The original Nosferatu film was actually a bootleg of the Bram Stoker's Dracula, and they tried to have the project destroyed. I think that's the story. Tried to have the whole picture destroyed because it wasn't, they didn't get the rights to do it. Can you imagine that if that film, well, it's one of the biggest cultural icons of horror films, especially in American history, and I guess it was actually a German expressionism. Yeah, they tried to destroy that film. So I'm just kind of adding some dark areas in around where his ears might be. I'm looking at some couple references here of of Skarsgård and of different versions of Count Orlok. I'm just trying to pull together kind of a little bit of a kit bash of Count Orlok's and our boy Skarsgård. Borrow a little bit of that look that he does from It, you know. Definitely always kind of looking through his brow. Got a very distinctive kind of brow. Okay, we're still just kind of figuring it out, but his eyes are way too white. We gotta get these bad boys down to kind of an off-white so they start to feel set back in his head. Yeah, maybe something like that. I just kind of trying to find. I think we were closer. See how if I get back to where I was. Okay, so maybe if we go here now. Okay, so I just kind of taking the white of his eyes and just kind of pushing it back a little bit. It was a little bit too white, and lost track of my brush there for a second. Kind of didn't like the direction we went, so I just, like I said earlier, through the magic of undo, we just brought it back. There was, I want to keep this kind of brow here, like a snarl. His brow is kind of bending on us. And probably a little bit of like Kiefer Sutherland from, what's that? Lost Boys. I figure let's go ahead and then just put a little bit of time into these eyes right now, just to maybe anchor the drawing for me so that I can kind of get a little bit of the personality here. I'm trying not to zoom in and just kind of work at this one size as if I'm working on a real sheet of paper. Okay, so that's coming to life a little bit there. Okay, just trying to play up that brow a bit here. Same thing here. That's a plane where light will really be hitting. We want to kind of highlight this area here where maybe the light would hitting, and I'm light's coming from this way. Kind of the idea. I still haven't zoomed in yet, although feeling we're going to have to here pretty soon. So I try to do this thing sometimes where instead of just kind of like letting my pencil wander around, I try to just do one stroke, one economical stab with the pencil. That way I kind of make my strokes count rather than just kind of willy-nilly just drawing everywhere. I try to think where the beginning of the stroke is going to be, where the end of the stroke is going to be, and then make that stroke happen. I'm under his eye right now, around the edge of his eye, going around to the other eye now and trying to bring out some of the definition here. Something about this eye is not really doing it for me quite yet. We'll get there. All right, we just keep going. We just gotta keep on keeping on till it starts looking like our man. And so, like I said, we just want to do darker darks and lighter lights. So let's shift maybe just a little bit of attention over here to our hands. See if we can't start to kind of put some work in here. That way, give myself a bit of a break. Here we go. Something like that there. Kind of bring some of these out here. Maybe it's here. I'm just trying to see what I was thinking earlier and just kind of maybe reiterate that. I think this is something like that. This one looks pretty good. Maybe in there like that, something like that. Okay. So I think maybe what we'll do is let's go ahead and zoom in. Alright. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what kind of details we can find now that we're zoomed in here. I think our guy is gonna have some, get some kind of age in his forehead here, some wrinkles, because looks like he's got his face kind of, I don't like any of that. But we still need to figure out how to pull this off. I think we just need to maybe start with this first. Yeah, so maybe just kind of pull some of the... Okay, alright, so I'm just trying to Define some more details here in his face that kind of reiterate this kind of look we have going here without taking away from what's already working here, you know. Kind of need to widen that up a bit. Hopefully we'll get in here and soften up some of these lines a bit, maybe something like this. Yep, now I'm just gonna add a little bit of some highlight type stuff under his eye and these shadows. Let's have some shit popping out here, and then same thing around his nose. Maybe kind of really define that Skarsgård top lip. You know, Skarsgård has he has some very large lips. We want to make it look like both Count Orlok, and we also want it to look like Skarsgård, so it's gonna be a bit of a balancing act here to kind of get it to work in both circumstances, but I think we'll figure it out. Again, I'm not judging it. However the drawing comes out is how the drawing comes out, but I just want to have fun doing it, and I'm excited to go see this film. So I'm just trying to kind of like really give him one of those like mean archy eyebrow things here, you know, kind of really play that up. I don't want to get overly, I don't want it to look too much like it, but also want it to have that definite Skarsgård shape as well. Okay, so we're still just trying to bring some of these details out and see kind of what the answer is here. Adding some more details just around this eye here, around the edges of the eye, so it has a little bit of a ledge, so you can kind of see where the eye is kind of sitting behind the eye is sitting behind a layer of skin here. You know, give him a little bit of that emo eyeliner energy here. You know, Count Orlok, come on, he is the original goth, so the eyeliner is a must-have. I'm not exactly sure what the answer is here with his pupils necessarily, but, and again, I'm just kind of reiterating what we're seeing here, making darker darks and lighter lights. I'm making my tool get a little bit smaller and smaller. I'm working on his nostrils now, and as the tool gets smaller and smaller and we start gaining more contrast, you know, we're really just, it's just a kind of a push and a pull, just kind of pushing and pulling the picture until it kind of resonates. You know, normally, like you saw, I was saying earlier, I like to kind of work in economical strokes, but sometimes when you get down to these small details, you just kind of have to do whatever's available, you know. I might have to smudge back and forth a few times, break my rule here to just kind of work around his mouth, really kind of define some of these details, especially when we get down to his teeth. You know, we're gonna want to you know, in these little marks here on his bottom lip, you know, we're just trying to get a little more detail here. And then what we would do is, there's a looseness in his teeth here that I'm liking, but also we need to feel the points here. So I'm going to kind of really highlight the points of his teeth. Also, if we're being lit from the bottom, maybe something would cast a shadow in here, but there's another tooth back here. Feel like if we were being lit from the bottom, we might get some real opportuned highlights here in his teeth. Really play up those points. Losing a little bit of the sharpness, looking a lot like it here, which is maybe means he's starting to look like Skarsgård, or maybe it's just because he's starting to look like a clown. Just trying to define some of these points a little bit on his teeth. You know, we still want to keep it as loose as we can in some areas, but also, you know, got to look like some sharp, scary teeth. And also, there's a tongue back there between his teeth, so let's go ahead and bring some gray here and just kind of imply that maybe we can see you know, his tongue through here, something like that. Is that starting? We believing that that's his tongue? Maybe go ahead and start to get some more highlights here, so it starts to feel like, you know, his tongue is wet, Just a little bit of a tongue in there. I guess that might be playing like a... I'm just trying, might not be, but looks like something. White, just kind of put a hard specular highlight. I feel like maybe we kind of overdid it over here on this side. Bring that down. All right, we're getting there. A little bit at a time, but it's starting to... Let's go zoom out real quick and just kind of see what the face looks like in context. Yeah. Pretty creepy. Okay, so we're just gonna keep going. So let's get back in here, zoom back into his face, start working out these details. Now, generally, if I'm just doing some kind of personal drawing, or I'm just doing some exercises, I generally don't try to go this far into details. I kind of try to keep it loose as possible. But, you know, we're doing a picture that's kind of representative, particularly. So I'm going to take a little extra time and just kind of work out some of these details. I think that it might help us in the long run, pulling the drawing together. Okay, so now I'm just bringing up a larger brush here so I can kind of get some brush strokes in here and it not looking too clean. Alright, you still get, I mean, that looks a little bit like a Skarsgård's nose, right? About as close as we gonna get, I guess, without an actual reference of Skarsgård in the role. Okay, so let's start looking at some of these details in his eyes, these gums. Maybe the mouth can grow a little bit deeper. I feel like the gums are a little bit overly there. So like, what if we pulled I'm just pulling the gums back a little bit, so maybe we get a little bit more teeth and a little less gum there. And then honestly, I might even go back and put some more teeth in there. Honestly, we'll wait till last and see how we feel about that, but let's go ahead and kind of start working on some of these shadows around his eyes to kind of really bring the focus here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Get a nice like kind of bag under this eye and a bag under this eye. Look like you know, maybe he's been having trouble sleeping as he is the king of the underworld. We have a little bit of a discrepancy. I had to say discrepancy. This side, one side of his nose. Hey, buddy. Some of his nose is a little larger than the other side, and our original Count Orlok definitely did not have a wide nose. He had a very narrow nose, but again, kind of gonna take some creative liberties. Try to get him looking like a Skarsgård rather than just a blatant rip off of the original. Try to combine those two. See how we're getting there. Alright, so I'm just kind of bringing some highlights in his jaw up to his eyes now. Just trying to lighter lights and darker darks. Here we go. Maybe some, you know, I'm just trying to figure where the highlights might be in this scenario. If the something like that, you know, and I don't know what the answer is, where exactly the highlights are gonna be, but I'm just gonna make some guesses here. The same thing, like I can see like it's a bit of a wrinkle here. That means there's probably one here, you know, something like that. You know, I can see that the face is slightly wider on one side than the other, so let's bring a little bit more width to his face over here. Something like that. Alright, okay, alright. Looking pretty freaking scary. So that's good. Let's go ahead and get to some of these specular highlights, just to kind of open up the picture a little bit, just for fun, really. You know, if we put like a little highlight here in his eye, that's definitely gonna wake up his personality a little bit. Put one there, and because we're being lit from the bottom there, we can kind of imply what that light is. In your eye is going to be the answer to how you're being lit, you know. So if we're being lit from the bottom, there's some kind of source here, And I guess it wouldn't be a nice even square light like that probably, but for Olaf in the film it probably would be. So let's just gonna add some highlights here under his eyes to keep our attention going there. Imply that it's it's moist here. It's kind of wet. Olaf is when you get emotional or when you cry or anything like that, you don't just get tears in your eyes. Your the entire area around your eye, all those bags and everything, it all fills up with moisture. It all fills up with water, and I'm just trying to like emulate maybe that we can see some bit of moisture here. We could probably kind of let it drift out into some of these areas. The idea is that maybe he's just he's perspirating a little bit. He's perspiring, I think is the word. So we'll just kind of play up those kind of edges. And when we do fine details, we want to keep those fine details kind of tuned in just to where we want specific focus. So in order for the background to feel like a background, so let's zoom out a little bit and see how it feels in the grand scheme of things. Not too bad, not too bad. All right, so let's kind of clean up some of these areas here and kind of remember where our main idea was. I don't want to put too much details in his hands because I kind of want them to feel like they're blurry. But I do want to kind of rethink the structure of his shoulder here, maybe something like that. Maybe that gives him a little bit more power. I think that this side could even be like, kind of make it look like he's leaning to one side just a bit, so he's not just something like that. Looks pretty interesting. Yeah, okay, so what if we let's just go ahead and define some of this stuff here. I'm not even sure if this hand makes sense exactly, but let's just kind of keep going and see where we end up. And one thing I would like to do is imply a bit of a point on his ear here. Don't quite have that, but we can. We'll get there. Okay, that looks like it's a little bit pointier. We could probably go back and add just a little bit more point to his ear. I kind of want it to go up, not quite that, up. Something like that. Something like that. Because it's actually going to be... the light's going to be hitting that top edge of his ear there. So actually this would be black. Top here. Inside of his ear would be black. This little spot here would kind of fade up maybe. Maybe something like that. I'm just kind of trying to bring these shadows into his face in a way that feels kind of natural. Okay. And the perfect thing about this type of drawing is that just making it up. And it doesn't have to look like anything specific, so long as it kind of looks cool, we got a winner. Hey buddy. Try to take a look at the way we're shading his head here. I feel like maybe we would have a little bit more something like this. Yeah, this is a very rough kind of, maybe we wanted to kind of imply this. Yeah, that's a little better. I don't want to imply this Eddie Munster shape, but we want to kind of reiterate maybe what his brow is doing, so just kind of doing that. We have like such a stark contrast here. What's up, buddy? We have a stark contrast here on this line. Just kind of break that line up a little bit. A little bit of a cameo appearance here from my man. What you doing, buddy? What you want? You got wet food, you got dry food, you got all kinds of foods. You got fresh water, you just want some loving. Well, there you go. Right, where were we? All right, so let's just keep cleaning up some of these areas here. So we were kind of softening up this edge on his head here, this here. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of using my black, but I'm just giving it very light pressure. That way it kind of adds a little bit of a, oh, that kind of looks like hair. I don't like that. Just trying to break that line up on his head a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right, so we got a little bit of clean up this area here. That's kind of cool. Making his head narrow like that feels more like the character, maybe. Just finding things as we go along. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That was too much. All right. I'm liking that. I feel like maybe his chin could be a little pointier in the case of Nosferatu and the case of our man Skarsgård. I think we can narrow down that chin in a way. It will look more like our guy Skarsgård, but maybe a little more villainous. Maybe if we just add a little bit more of a point down here on his chin like that. Something like that, something like that. Okay, alright. So what are we gonna do here with these hands? Okay, let's put a little bit of time into these guys. 100% sure what we're gonna do with them, because they might kind of end up being out of focus, honestly, if kind of sticking out in front. But they sort of look like maybe they're at the same plane as his face, maybe, but it's really hard to tell. And again, it's a decision I have to make. What I don't like is the way that looks, and the way this looks. So let's just narrow that down a little bit. This looks like this must be pinky. Gotta find that area. Alright. So now it's feeling a little bit more intentional. It's not perfect, these hands, but I think we're kind of getting there. A shape there. A lot of it is going to be, we want to see that highlight really hitting the palms of his hands, if that's where the light source is. So let's go ahead and like maybe play up the shadow here on the top of his fingers, on the top of these fingies. Not exactly sure what I'm seeing with this pinky, but we'll have to come back and check it out and see what we're doing here. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to keep it real loose on the hands. I want to put as little detail as I can so that you can just get what's happening, but also like don't want to spend a lot of time focusing here on the drawing. I don't want the viewer to necessarily spend a lot of time here. Whoops. I'm just trying to open up the knuckles here at the top of this hand. I feel like these fingers are a little more separated. Just going to, there we go. I'm just going to make that finger a little smaller there. We're losing a little bit of the palm of his hand behind those fingers, but we want that to kind of be the highlight. So what I'm doing is I'm going to color the palms of his hands, everything like a very light gray here. And I got to work on that thumb too. We've got everything kind of planned as like a light gray. Then when I hit him with the white, it'll really feel like maybe there's a highlight in his hands there. And even though I'm keeping it loose and there's not a lot of detail, maybe we'll kind of understand the implications here. And I might zoom in a little bit and get a little more details there in his hand, get it a little bit cleaner. But also, not too, we don't want it to be too clean. Also, we might go into the background here, and the background just feels like it's a little bit, feels like it might be a little bit bright for our kind of style here drawing. Let's kind of bring the background down. Might even put a little bit of black in here too. Let's kind of bring this whole side down. That way we feel like we've got like most of our light is coming from one side of our image here. No, I want that shoulder to be nice and square. I kind of feel like that gave him some power rather than a rounded shape. Yeah, okay. So it's cooler, a little darker like that. I do like it being darker, but we're losing a little bit of some interest here. So let's, I'm just trying to add some kind of interest in the background here. So we're not just looking at, whatever it was, blank gray. Let's, alright, so not really loving that, but we'll figure it out. Let's keep going. So I'm just softening up the background a little bit now, so it still kind of feels like it's in the background, but also just a little bit more information in the back, so it doesn't feel like nothing. And then I need to go through and kind of reiterate this area that we've lost. That to be nice and sharp, something like that, the way the audience knows. And the same thing with his shoulder here, like I kind of want it to feel almost geometric in shape back here. It's a nice hard shoulder. Yeah, okay, so let's just let's kind of figure out what's going on here with our hands finally, and then let's go ahead and look at each hand. And I still want to keep them loose, but like I still want to know that there's a point to his nail here, and right now I can tell that it's, you know, see, like that looks a little bit more like a point, you know, point. All right, then we'll go back with our darker color here and just kind of reiterate what we're doing here. So we want to do, this is just the top sides of his fingers and just implying that they're going down into some kind of point here. Not exactly sure if this would be more like this. Something funny going on there with his palm of his hand. Maybe it's gonna be more like this. Something more like this, maybe. And then, yeah, that's what it is. Maybe something like this is it. Okay, alright, okay. That's looking a little better. That's looking a little better. Let's go ahead and bring up that black brush and kind of start softening up the edges of this finger here so it doesn't just fall off into nothing. Just gonna add a little bit of a kind of a black bevel here on the fingers, just so it's you know, this one looks pretty good actually. We're gonna go ahead and reiterate what we have going here without trying not to change too much. Just kind of like what we're implying already. Kind of cool, happy accidents. You know, if we yeah, see, that's pretty cool. Kind of like what's going on there with that hand. I think what might be cool is just like the specular highlights we got going on and around his eyes. Like maybe we could put some of those just kind of on the very tips of his nails. Is that gonna work? No, I don't think that's gonna work. Could maybe, is that the darkest here? We can go ahead and finish off those highlights on his palm, because the bottom half of his hand should be the brightest part of his hand. So let's highlight all this stuff here. Use a bigger brush. Make the inside of his hands like real white and bright, where it would look like whatever our light source. You see that white arrow at the bottom is our light source. Yeah, so with his hands kind of lit up like that, it's going to kind of it's going to really give us an idea of what's going on with the light source. See, I like how loose this hand is. This hand's a little looser than the other hand, and I think that hey buddy, attitude, huh? Attitude, my man. That attitude, what's going on? So I'm just kind of loosening up some of the lines on this hand where I think we were kind of getting a little too defined by the smaller brushes. You know, we still want it to feel kind of loose and expressive and not necessarily, you know, we don't want the hard edges here. That way it feels like maybe it's literally like out of focus. So we're kind of focusing on our face. Not focusing on the hands so much. I think we're almost there, guys. You know, I could keep pushing and pulling on these hands. I will. Let's just clean up the edges of his face. So like just the opposite idea of his hands. Like we want to have some of those loose edges on his hands, but maybe we have a bit of a tighter edge here. The edge of his face really feel like it's in focus, you know. That's kind of cool. Maybe we can find some maybe we can find some more go ahead and sharpen some more of these details in his mouth, so we're really focusing on his mouth here. I think that's an important part of the drawing. Let's find some more areas to kind of get some specular highlights here. You know, that looks pretty good. I think maybe we need some darker parts on his mouth, like in the corners here. Really feel like that mouth is kind of set back into his head a little bit, you know. Don't want to go too much because there's some of the looseness that's kind of we want to keep. But also I feel like a little bit more shadow here will really bring up that contrast, and I think that upping the contrast, even if it's, you know, a little bit pushing the anatomy necessarily, or pushing what shadows are going to actually do, just yeah, there we go. Soften that up a little bit, then we could do maybe a similar thing here and this, you know, some of this area where his gums are, where his gums meet his bottom lip, I think would be hidden from the light there. Might cast a little bit of a shadow like that. Again, just kind of maybe narrowing down those gums a little bit so there's a little bit more teeth and a little less gum. Alright, let's go ahead and sharpen this edge of his chin a little bit. Let's just take a look while we're zoomed in. Yeah, there we go. Make sure we got a nice little point there. That's gonna come down to a little bit of a sharper point there. I think, just trying to see if how those things go. Take a look at his eyes real quick one last time. Kind of see what's going on here. A little bit asymmetrical, which I don't necessarily hate, but I would just try a little bit to kind of make a match a little more. And like, you want them to be a little bit asymmetrical because humans are, and you also, in anger, the way his face is, his face is a little contorted, so makes it interesting. But also we want his eyes to be not a distraction or not don't want him to depart from the style. And I think that's it. That's a little nicer there. Kind of brought him up. I think maybe we could bring down this highlight on his nose a little bit in order to really bring it down just a little bit. That way I can come back with a finer brush and really put some of those specular highlights that we were seeing around his eyes. Let's kind of get some of that happening here on the tip of his nose. Feels similar. Let's make sure these teeth are nice and white. So I'm just kind of double checking these teeth. Let's zoom out. Okay, so we want to get rid of this, our light source. It was just kind of reminding me, our light source. I'm not sure I like that bat back there anymore. Even though this isn't our light source, I like having something in the background from the same kind of direction. It's kind of implying something back here. I kind of like that. So I'm just putting some random kind of lines back here to just kind of make the background a little bit more interesting. I think I like to kind of make a decision here. Maybe we pull in some spots like the background onto the foreground like this. I see the artist doing that and kind of really bring some warmth and life to the image. Something like that. And maybe we get some black and bring that across here. No, it didn't work. But maybe some white might. Here we go. Yeah, we just bring a little bit of the background onto the image there, and then still feel like the palms of his hands would be really cool if they kind of felt like they were like a diffused glow coming off of them. So let's see if we can kind of just soften that bottom edge of his hands. Yeah, something like that, just so it's not that complete hard line there. There we go. That might be a much good thing we got the undo. Something like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Alright, so we'll go ahead and take our bring our brush back down to a little smaller and bring the nails back out where we were softening it up. Bring some of that back like this. And the same thing on the back side of that hand, like maybe we can diffuse like a little bit of a diffused black over the knuckles, so it feels like they're kind of coming out of the shadows as well. Kind of push the focus behind. All right, I think that's it. That's my Nosferatu drawing on stream. It's pretty cool. This is my first piece with charcoal brush. With the pastel brush in Photoshop. Just for funsies, we can find some kind of fun font here. Our stereotypical Friday the 13th font. Boom. And then if we want to just maybe tie it into our image a little bit, we'll add a little bit of a smudge on top of it like that in white. And maybe also a little bit of a smudge in black along the edges, just for it to fill above and below. Maybe it feels like our Nosferatu logo is actually our light source. know, so something like that. I don't know if we will leave it, but I see we could do a little bit of a sfumato technique. We can add a layer of color on top of our image, maybe like a really warm, orangish, flamey fire kind of feel. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put a solid over our image and run through some blending options, and that color burns pretty cool. I want to do something a little more subtle. I think that overlay is pretty cool. So this is at 0%. Bring it up till we like it. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Really makes it feel like it's not black and white. Almost feels like it's in color now. I think with that in mind, I think I might go ahead and add a couple other colors on top here just to maybe excite the color palette a little bit, give a little more dynamics to the color palette. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just, on this overlay layer, I'm just gonna add a little bit of red in some areas, you know? Yeah. And the overlay is going to continue to dodge some of the areas that it's already dodging. So it does a little bit of the work for me. Just bringing a little bit of life. Again, this is just a layer on top of the painting that's set to overlay. So as I add color to it, it's going to interact with the dark and lightness of our image. So I feel like that red might be a little too pronounced, so we'll bring it down just a little bit. And then I don't know if it's actually going to work, but I thought it might. I had an idea of maybe putting just a little bit of a cooler color here in the shadows. Not really sure if that's gonna work, but we're gonna try it. See how it turns out. No, that cool color just ends up looking black. Okay, so maybe what we could do is do another overlay with some, maybe like another warm color, like a yellow. Maybe a yellow might give him a fun, sickly vibe. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Once we kind of get some of those yellows in there, we'll again, you can dial them back to nothing, dial them back up a little bit just to get some dynamics there. So if we want to look before the overlays, black and white, which is really cool. I do like the black and white one. This is with our sepia overlay, which is just kind of it's just like a copper layer that I've turned to overlay, and it's at 85%. Then I put some red in his face, on his cheeks and his eyes, just to bring it up a little bit there, just to put a little bit of life into him. Added just a slight bit of yellow there, just to add a little bit of highlight. I gotta be honest, I don't really love the yellow, but it does add a little bit more dynamics. So let's just bring it down just ever so slightly. And I think that's it. That's our Nosferatu interpretation. That's I guess what Bill Skarsgård might look like in the new Robert Eggers film. Not really sure. Let's go ahead and save it. Appreciate you hanging out and watching me draw. My name is Gabriel Saint. I'm a writer, producer, director, artist, working out of Los Angeles, California. Go check out the links below. There's links to paintings I've done, feature films I've directed, music I've written and produced, and other artwork from this series. Check out the links below. Thanks so much for your time. And remember, if you're having a tough time about anything, you can write about it, you can take photos about it, you can paint a picture of Nosferatu about it. Whatever it is, take it out on art, not on yourself. See you next time.